Hey guys, how are you today? Quick rant before we dive into today's chaos. As some of you might have noticed, YouTube's algorithm has decided I'm not special anymore. Shocking, I know. So now if you don't like, comment, or do a little backflip in the algorithm's honor, this video might just vanish into the void, never to be seen again. Seriously though, even a hi or "this is wild" in the comments helps way more than you think. It tells YouTube, hey, people actually like this channel. Maybe don't hide it from everyone. That can really help push my videos out to a wider audience, not just to my subscribers. So if you enjoy these stories and want to support the channel, that's the best way to do it. Now grab a drink, get comfy, and enjoy the drama. You won't want to miss this one. When I, Lucy, 20 female, was just 12 years old, my mom Tracy, 44 female, abandoned me and left me with my grandparents to raise. It happened less than a year after my dad passed away from cancer. Losing my dad was already hard enough. He had been sick for a while, and even though I knew things weren't looking good, I still believed he would somehow get better. I didn't want to believe that my dad could actually die, but he did. The house felt empty without him. My dad had always been the one who made things feel safe. He was the one who tucked me in at night and read me stories, even when I told him I was too old for them. He made pancakes every Sunday, stacking them into towers just to make me laugh. After he died, all of that was gone. My mom didn't know how to comfort me, or maybe she didn't want to. I don't know. All I know is that she stopped trying. For months, I felt like I was walking around in a fog. I would cry at night, wishing my dad could somehow come back. And through it all, I held on to the idea that at least I still had my mom. Even if she wasn't the same after Dad died, she was still there. I told myself that things would get better, that she just needed time. But then one day, she sat me down and told me I was going to live with my grandparents. At first, I didn't understand. I thought maybe it was temporary, like I'd just be spending a few weeks with them while she sorted things out. But she made it clear that this wasn't a visit. This was permanent. She wasn't coming back for me. I begged her not to leave me. I cried and promised I'd be good. I told her I'd clean my room without being asked, that I'd do all my homework, that I wouldn't bother her if that's what she wanted. But none of it mattered. She had already made up her mind. After she left me at my grandparents' house, I called her constantly. I would sit by the phone and dial her number over and over, just hoping she'd pick up. Sometimes she did, but her voice was cold, like I was a stranger. She told me to stop calling. She said I was making things harder for her, that I needed to accept things and move on. I didn't understand why she was acting like this. I knew she was sad about my dad, but I couldn't figure out why she didn't want me anymore. I thought maybe she blamed me for his death somehow, even though that didn't make sense. I thought maybe I'd done something wrong, even though I couldn't think of what that could be. Eventually, I found out the truth. My mom had met a man, someone new, and he agreed to marry her on one condition, which was that she had to send me away. He didn't want to raise another man's kid, and just like that, she chose him over me. I remember feeling so confused when I found out. I kept asking myself how she could do that. How could she pick someone she barely knew over her own child? How could she just forget about me? For a long time, I believed it was my fault. I thought maybe if I'd been a better kid, she would have wanted to keep me. Maybe if I had been smarter or quieter. I spent years feeling like I wasn't enough, like I had been too broken for her to love me. My grandparents tried their best to fill the gap, but it wasn't the same. They were kind, but they were older, and they didn't always know what to do with a grieving kid. I didn't have anyone to talk to about the things I was feeling. I stopped trying in school for a while because I didn't see the point. My mom didn't care if I did well or not. She wasn't even there to see it. This was 8 years ago. 8 long years without a word from her. No calls, no letters, nothing. It was like I had just stopped existing to her. At first, I kept hoping she would change her mind. I thought maybe one day she'd realize she had made a mistake. I told myself she was just giving me time to calm down, or that she was too embarrassed to reach out, but would eventually find the courage. But the months kept passing and nothing happened. I waited for her on my birthdays, thinking maybe she'd call. I told myself she'd at least send a card or a text, but she never did. Holidays came and went, and still nothing. Even when I graduated from high school, I kept looking at the crowd, hoping to see her face. I imagined her showing up last minute, smiling proudly from the back row, but she wasn't there. She didn't call to ask how I was doing. She didn't ask about my grades or if I was eating well. It was like she had erased me from her life completely. Eventually, I stopped expecting her to come back. I stopped picking up my phone every time it rang, thinking maybe it was her. I stopped checking the mailbox, hoping for some sort of letter. The hope I had clung to for so long slowly faded away, and I accepted that this was just how things were going to be. It hurt, but what else could I do? I tried to move on. It wasn't easy, but I did my best. My grandparents became my world. They didn't always know what to say when I was hurting, but they were there, and that meant everything. They showed up to my school events, even when they didn't really understand what was going on. My grandma would try to make my favorite meals when I had a bad day, and my grandpa always gave me advice. It made me feel cared for. Still, no matter how much I tried to forget her, she was always in the back of my mind. I wondered where she was and what she was doing. Was she happy? Did she ever think about me? Did she regret what she had done? Sometimes I would lie awake at night thinking about her. I'd remember little things like how she used to tuck my hair behind my ear when I was upset, or how she always smelled like lavender. I hated that I still missed her. I hated that I couldn't just let her go. Then last week, out of nowhere, she called me. I didn't recognize the number, so I answered like I always do. When I heard her voice on the other end, I actually froze for a second. I almost thought I was imagining it. I hadn't heard her voice in so long that it felt unreal. It was her, though, no doubt about it. She started by saying, "Hi, honey," like nothing had happened. She had disappeared from my life for 8 years. I felt this mix of anger and confusion bubbling up inside me. I asked her what she wanted, and at first she tried to make small talk. She asked how I was, and I couldn't believe it. After 8 years of silence, that was her first question. How was I? I told her I had nothing to say to her. I was so angry I couldn't even think straight. All those years of pain came rushing back all at once. The nights I cried myself to sleep, the times I wondered if I wasn't good enough. It all hit me in that moment. I told her she didn't get to just walk back into my life like this. But then she said it was important. She said it was a matter of life and death. That stopped me cold. For a second, I didn't know what to say. As much as I wanted to hang up the phone and forget she ever called, I couldn't. I kept thinking, what if something really is wrong? So I agreed to meet her. I met her at a cafe. When I walked in, I spotted her right away. She looked older, of course, but more than that, she looked tired. There were dark circles under her eyes and her hair looked thin and dull. For a second, I almost felt sorry for her. She smiled when she saw me, like she was actually happy to be there. I didn't smile back. I sat down across from her, and for a moment, neither of us said anything. I just stared at her, waiting for her to explain herself. Eventually, she broke the silence. She asked me how I was doing. Like before, I couldn't believe that was her first question. After everything, she thought she could just start with, "How are you?" I told her I was fine. I kept my answers short because I didn't feel like giving her anything more than that. Then she told me she had been keeping tabs on me through my grandparents. She knew I had graduated, knew where I worked, and even knew about some of my friends. At first, I didn't know how to feel about that. Part of me felt creeped out, like she had been watching me from a distance without ever bothering to reach out. But another part of me was just angry. If she cared enough to know those things, why didn't she care enough to actually be there? Then she told me she had made a mistake by abandoning me. She said that after my dad died, she was in a dark place, so lost and broken that she couldn't think straight. She said she was scared and overwhelmed and didn't know how to be a single mom. But mostly, she said she needed the support of a man. I couldn't believe she actually said that out loud, as if sending me away was some hard choice she had no control over. She tried apologizing after that. She kept saying how sorry she was, how she wished she had done things differently. She said she thought about me every day and regretted everything. But I couldn't forgive her. I couldn't forget what it felt like to be that scared, heartbroken kid. The one who waited by the phone for a call that never came. The one who cried himself to sleep on his birthday, wondering why his own mother didn't want him. The one who spent years thinking he wasn't good enough to be loved. I told her I couldn't do this. I told her I didn't have it in me to just pretend things were okay. She looked like she wanted to say something else, but I didn't give her the chance. I grabbed my bag, stood up, and walked out. After that, she started calling me. At first, I ignored her because I didn't want to hear what she had to say. Every time my phone rang, I felt that same anger bubbling up inside me. The sound of her voice still made me sick. But she didn't stop. She kept calling, sometimes multiple times a day. I never answered. I didn't know what she wanted anymore. And honestly, I didn't care. I had spent too many years hurting because of her, and I wasn't about to let her back in just because she suddenly decided she wanted to be part of my life. After I ignored her calls for days, she started texting me too. Long messages, short messages, some just saying things like, "Please call me," or "I really need to talk to you." When I blocked her number, she started using different ones. Every time I block one, another would pop up. It felt like no matter what I did, she was always finding some new way to reach me. At first, I was just frustrated. I couldn't believe she had the nerve to keep bothering me after everything she had done. But after a while, it started getting exhausting. Every time my phone buzzed, I felt this tight knot in my chest. It didn't matter if it was a text from a friend or just a spam email. My brain kept expecting to see her name on the screen. I felt like I couldn't escape her. Finally, I called my grandparents. I was frustrated and tired, and honestly, I needed answers. I knew they were the only people who would know what was going on. As soon as my grandma picked up the phone, I asked her straight out, "Why did you give her my number?" She went quiet for a moment, and that silence told me everything I needed to know. I could picture her on the other end, wringing her hands the way she always did when she felt guilty. Eventually, she sighed and told me the whole story. Apparently, my mom's life hadn't exactly gone the way she planned. After she married her new husband, the guy she gave me up for, they had been trying to have kids for years. I guess she thought she could start over and have this perfect little family with him, but it didn't work out that way. My grandma said they tried for a long time, but my mom couldn't get pregnant. She went to doctors, tried different treatments, and spent years hoping something would change, but nothing ever did. Now she's older, and she can't have kids at all. Her husband decided he wasn't okay with that. He left her because he still wanted children, and my mom couldn't give him that. And now, after all those years of ignoring me, she suddenly wanted me back in her life. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. After everything she put me through, after choosing him over me, abandoning me when I needed her the most, she thought she could just waltz back in because her life didn't go the way she planned. She wanted me to play happy family with her now because her perfect little dream didn't work out. I felt sick. I asked my grandma why they gave her my number, and she said they thought I deserved to know the truth, that maybe my mom had changed and was trying to make things right. I get that my grandparents meant well, but honestly, it just felt like one more thing being dumped on me. Since that phone call, my mom hasn't stopped. She's still trying to contact me, texting, calling, even leaving voicemails where she cries and says how sorry she is. She talks about how much she misses me, how she just wants a second chance. But every time I listen to her voice, I feel cold. It's like all the old pain just rushes back. I don't know what she expects from me. Does she really think we can just pretend like none of this ever happened? That I can just forget all those years of feeling abandoned and unloved? I feel guilty sometimes, like maybe I'm being too harsh. But then I remember all the nights I spent crying myself to sleep, wondering why I wasn't good enough for her to stay. I remember how hard it was to grow up feeling like I didn't matter. I don't know what to do. Part of me feels like I should just block every number she tries to use and forget about her. But another part of me keeps wondering, what if she's really sorry? What if she's changed? I don't know. I feel so confused, and honestly, I'm just tired of it all. What would you do if you were me? Not the a-hole. She didn't just make a mistake. She made a deliberate choice and then reinforced it for 8 straight years. Grief can explain a lot of things, but it does not excuse abandoning your child and then disappearing completely. The fact that she opened with "Hi, honey," after all that time, shows how disconnected she is from the reality of what she did to OP. OP doesn't owe her forgiveness just because her life didn't turn out the way she wanted, and she's lonely now. And now let's hear community's opinion. The life and death comment feels extremely manipulative. She used the most serious phrase possible to force you into meeting her, and then immediately shifted into small talk and "how are you?" like she hadn't been absent for almost a decade. Also, keeping tabs on you through your grandparents without ever reaching out isn't caring. It's voyeuristic. She watched you grow up from a distance and still chose not to show up when it mattered. You're not being too harsh. You're setting boundaries after years of emotional abandonment. Feeling guilty doesn't mean you're wrong. It just means you're a compassionate person. If she keeps contacting you through new numbers, save everything and make it clear to your grandparents that they are not to give her your information again. If you ever decide to speak to her in the future, it should be on your terms, not because she's pressuring you or crying for a second chance. It sounds like she doesn't miss you as much as she misses the life she thought she would have. She chose a man over her child, tried to start over, and when that failed, she suddenly wanted you back. That isn't accountability or love. It's regret mixed with desperation. You're allowed to protect yourself from reopening wounds just so she can feel better about her past decisions. Update 1. Hi everyone. I know it has only been 2 weeks since my original post, but I have a few updates. Yesterday, my grandparents invited me over for dinner, and honestly, I was excited. But the second I walked into their house, I knew something was off. My grandma greeted me at the door like normal, but she seemed nervous. Her smile was too big, too forced, and she kept fussing with her hair like she didn't know what to do with her hands. My grandpa was in the living room glued to the TV, which wasn't like him at all. Usually, he'd get up to give me a hug and ask about my day, but this time he barely looked my way. I tried to brush it off and just enjoy the evening. We sat down at the table, and for a few minutes things felt normal. But just as I was about to start eating, I heard my mom's voice from the hallway. I froze. My mom was there. My grandparents had invited her without telling me. I felt blindsided, and honestly, I was furious. I had been ignoring her calls and texts for weeks, and now she was just showing up like this. I didn't even say anything at first. I just stood up to leave. She started talking right away, saying she just wanted to explain herself, that she was sorry, that she needed me to hear her out. I told her I had nothing to say to her, but she wouldn't stop, and then she brought up my dad. She said that he wouldn't have wanted me to shut her out like this, that he would have wanted us to fix things. Hearing her say that felt like a punch to the gut. She had the nerve to talk about my dad. I snapped. I told her she didn't get to talk about him. I was angry and I tried to push past her, but she grabbed my arm. Without thinking, I shoved her back, not hard, but enough to make her stumble. That's when she completely lost it. She started shouting that I had assaulted her and threatened to call the police. She kept saying she wouldn't leave until I talked to her. Thankfully, my grandparents stepped in. My grandpa told her to stop, and my grandma backed him up, telling her they had seen what happened. They told her to leave, but she kept fighting them, insisting that I had attacked her. Eventually, after a lot of back and forth, she finally stormed out. She slammed the door so hard that one of the pictures on the wall nearly fell. After she left, my grandparents kept apologizing. They said they thought if we were together in a calm environment, maybe we could talk things through. They genuinely believed it would help, but instead it just made things worse. I told them I wasn't mad at them, but honestly, I was exhausted. I felt like I couldn't catch a break. Every time I started to feel okay, she found a way to drag me back into her mess. I know I shouldn't have pushed her, but I just couldn't take it anymore. I was tired of her acting like she cared, now that her life had fallen apart. After years of silence, she suddenly wanted to make things right. Not because she missed me, but because she needed something from me. I haven't heard from her since, but I doubt this is the end of it. I don't know what her next move will be, but I'm so tired of this whole thing. Update 2. Hi everyone. I really hoped that last time would be the end of it. But about a week after the whole dinner incident, I started getting texts from my mom again. At first, I ignored them like I always did. But then she started sending pictures, photos of her arm in a sling, bruises on her shoulder, and even one of her wearing a neck brace. She claimed that I had seriously injured her when I attacked her at my grandparents' house. She started demanding money, $5,000 to be exact. She claimed she needed it for medical bills, and that if I didn't pay, she'd sue me for assault. I was stunned. First of all, I barely pushed her. There's no way I hurt her like that. Second, this was so typical of her, trying to twist things and make herself the victim. At first, I ignored her. I figured she was just bluffing, hoping I'd panic and send her money to make her go away. But then she started contacting my grandparents, telling them I had seriously injured her and that I refused to help her with her medical costs. She painted this whole picture about how she was struggling to get by, couldn't work, and was barely able to take care of herself. Then she started reaching out to some of my friends. I don't even know how she found some of them, but she messaged a few people I'm close with, telling them that I had beaten her and was refusing to take responsibility. She told one of my friends that she was thinking about pressing charges and hoped they could talk some sense into me before it got serious. I was furious, but honestly, I wasn't even surprised. This is just what she does. She twists things until she looks like the victim. The most ridiculous part was that the pictures she sent me didn't even look real. The bruises were way too dark and perfectly shaped, almost like she had just smeared makeup on her. The one on her neck looked especially fake. She had a full face of makeup, perfectly styled hair, and was clearly posing for the picture. But the final straw was when she actually showed up at my work yesterday. She just walked right into the lobby and started causing a scene. She kept loudly telling people that her abusive daughter refused to pay for her medical bills. She even started fake crying, telling random strangers how her only child had beaten her and left her to suffer. My manager had to ask her to leave, and security ended up walking her out. It was humiliating, but thankfully my coworkers knew the situation and didn't believe her. The worst part of all this is that I'm genuinely worried she will try to take me to court. I doubt she has any real proof, but she's manipulative enough to twist the truth and make things sound worse than they were. At this point, I feel like she's trying to wear me down. I think she's hoping I'll eventually just give her the money to make her go away. I've blocked her on everything again, and I'm looking into getting some legal advice just in case she actually tries something. Honestly, I just want her out of my life for good, but it feels like she's determined to keep pulling me back in. Update 3. I thought things were finally over, but of course, my mom couldn't just leave things alone. After weeks of her threatening to sue me, I found out she dropped the whole thing. Apparently, she couldn't afford a lawyer, which honestly wasn't surprising. She's never been great with money, and I figured she was just bluffing the whole time. Still, it was a huge relief knowing I didn't have to deal with that on top of everything else. But just when I thought I could finally breathe, I found out she had moved into my grandparents' house. I honestly couldn't believe it when my grandma told me. When my grandma called to check in, she casually mentioned that my mom was now living there. Apparently, after her husband left her, she told my grandparents she had nowhere else to go and guilt-tripped them into letting her stay. My grandma was really conflicted about it. She said she didn't want to turn her own daughter away, especially since my mom was struggling. But I know exactly what happened. My mom played the victim like she always does. She probably cried about being homeless and swore she had changed. And my grandparents, being the kind and trusting people they are, fell for it. Now I feel like I can't even visit them without having a run-in with her. My grandparents told me I was always welcome and that they'd make sure things stay calm, but I don't trust her to act normal. Knowing my mom, she'd probably try to corner me or start some dramatic scene just to make herself look like the victim again. It's frustrating because my grandparents are some of the only family I have left. They've been there for me when no one else was, and now I feel like she's trying to take that from me too. I know they mean well, but I wish they could see how manipulative she is. For now, I've just been calling them more often instead of visiting. I hate that it's come to this, but I don't know what else to do. The last thing I want is to show up, get ambushed, and have her twist things all over again. Update 4. I'm so frustrated right now, and honestly, I just need to vent. After my mom moved in with my grandparents, I kept hearing bits and pieces about how things weren't going great. At first, my grandparents didn't say much. They just brushed things off, or say she was going through a hard time. But I knew something was wrong. Eventually, I found out what was really happening. My mom hasn't even tried to get a job since she moved in. Instead, she's been relying on my grandparents for everything, including food, gas, clothes, you name it. And of course, she's constantly borrowing money from them. I say borrowing, but we all know she's never going to pay them back. My grandma told me that my mom promises she's just getting back on her feet, but it's clear she's just taking advantage of them. It makes me so angry because my grandparents are retired and living on a fixed income. They aren't struggling yet, but they've always been careful with money. Seeing her treat them like her personal ATM makes my blood boil. I tried talking to them about it. I sat them down and explained that she was just using them and that she wasn't even trying to get her life together, but they kept defending her. My grandma said she was family and that they couldn't just throw her out. My grandpa admitted he was frustrated, but he said they were just trying to give her a chance. I felt like I was banging my head against a wall. No matter what I said, they just wouldn't listen. Then about a week ago, everything finally came to a head. One night, I got a call from my grandma, and I could tell right away that something was wrong. She told me that my mom had been dropped off at their house by a police officer. Apparently, she had been drinking somewhere and caused a scene. I don't know all the details, but the officer ended up driving her home because she was too drunk to get herself there. That was it for my grandparents. My grandpa, who's usually the calmest person I know, had finally had enough. The next morning, they told my mom that she had 1 month to figure out where she was going to live. They said they weren't going to let her stay there any longer. My grandma told me she felt guilty about it, but they both agreed it was the right thing to do. Honestly, I think giving her a month is more than fair. Knowing my mom, she's probably going to spend most of that time feeling sorry for herself instead of actually figuring things out. But at least my grandparents are finally putting their foot down. I don't know what's going to happen next, but I feel relieved knowing my grandparents are standing up for themselves. They've done so much for me over the years, and they deserve better than to be treated like this. Thank you to everyone here for your support throughout this whole mess. It's been a tough road, but I'm hopeful that things are finally starting to turn around.